Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Project. In this module, I want to talk about task types and why you need to know the difference between each one. So on the screen, I'm going to create a few tasks, task A, task B and task C, and then I'll show you how this all works. So I need some resources, so I'll go to the resource sheet down the bottom there and just create myself a few resources. Bill, Ben, Anne and Bob, and they can all be on £10 an hour. £10. Just get the little black cross on there and pull that down. Too far. Get rid of that one. Go back to the Gantt chart and assign some of these. Let me just change these durations to 1 day. So they're all 1 day tasks. Now if I go to assign resources, what you can do here is on task A, if I assign Anne, the default setting for the task type is what's called fixed unit. When you assign resources, nothing will happen to the duration. I've actually got the work column on here as well, so you can see the hours worked. If I click on another person and assign, the hours increase, 2 people, but it's still a 1 day task. The duration is not coming down, like so. Now if I remove all of these for a minute, remove, and go into the task itself and change the type to fixed unit but effort driven, you can see what's going to happen. If I double click into this, here we have fixed units, and there the effort driven tick is off. But if I now put that on, so this is the default setting, that used to be the default setting, but it's not anymore. But now I've put that on, so what would happen here is you would allocate, say, Anne to a task. Nothing will happen to that duration because that's your initial allocation. Let's say that you need to get this done quicker and you want to throw extra people at it. With that effort driven tick on, as you add extra people, the duration will reduce, like so. So that's to bring the schedule back in if you need to get it done quicker. That is not always possible with every type of task. Adding more people doesn't make it go quicker. Let me just remove those two for a minute and remove Anne. So that, no, there's nobody on this, so it's back as it was. Now, even with the effort driven tick on, if I highlight all of these and assign them initially, nothing will happen to that duration because that was my initial allocation. It only affects the duration if you start adding additional people from your first go. If I remove them again and just try and show you that, if I highlight 2 people, that's my initial plan. I think 2 people can get that done in 1 day. But then I decided they need a bit of help. So now if I assign an extra person, it starts driving the duration down. And again, it will drive it down. So it's only additional resources when that effort driven ticks on affects the actual timeline and brings the duration down. Now the next one, task B, is what's called a fixed duration task. So if I go into that one, and there's the fixed units. If I go to fixed duration, you do have an effort driven tick, and again that's not on by default, but I'll show you the difference. So if I add Anne to that task, assign £160 she's on, because that's a 2 day task. Let me put that back down to 1 day. So it's 1 day, so she is on £80. Now if I assign Ben, he's also on £80, so they're both on £80. The duration isn't changing, it's still a 1 day task. So nothing happens to the duration because it's a fixed duration, and nothing's happening to the hours because they're getting the full wage. But when I put the effort driven tick on, if I go into that and put the effort driven tick on, you can see what's going to happen here. Put the effort driven tick on, click OK to that. So now if I just remove one of these, I'll remove that one. So we've still got these down as, let's remove everybody. No hours, 1 day. So I'll apply Anne. 8 hours, 1 day. She's on £80. Ben, that is, sorry. If I add Anne, what's going on now is the actual money's dropping, so that £40 each, that's the hours. So there's still 8 hours work, fixed duration, but they're only doing 4 hours a piece. And if you keep adding people, the divide comes down even more, like so. So you can see that because the effort driven ticks on, it's still a 1 day task for 8 hours work. And the actual money gets divvied up between these people. If you don't like the way the percentages work in there, you could just change all of those to 25% just to make it look nicer. But basically, some money, the man hours, what you're paying them is staying at £20 each because it's been divided across the whole day. So that is a fixed duration task. Now the last one, fixed work, if I go into that one, fixed work, you do not get the option of having the tick on or off, but it is on, which means if you add more people or more resources to this, it will drive the duration down. But let's have a look at this. Let's say I want this to be 10 hours fixed work. I've added the work column there over a 10-day period. So basically just 1 hour a day. And if I assign one of these guys, assign, that gives you 10 hours over 10 days. So you can see it's only 13% of her total availability over that time period. So it's still £100, but that's what 13% of her wage is. Now, another thing you can do with fixed duration tasks is, let me just come down here and type task D. Let's say that this is a 10-day task, 10 days, not hours, 10 days, and I want to assign Anne to it. So I've assigned Anne to it, and that gives you the money for that £800. But if I go into one of the other views, like either resource usage or task usage, which I can get quickly down here, what you have in project, if I get rid of this now for a minute, you have a feature called a work contour. So at the moment, the work contour for Anne for this 10 days is 8 hours per day, every day. So that's just basically clocking up that time for Anne. If I double click into Anne, you will see the assignment information box, and this is where work contour is. So you can change that, for example, to backloaded, and then see what happens here. That applies a little calculation, and when it does that, what it's done is extended this duration to, it's no longer a 10-day task, it's a 16-day task, 16 plus, still 80 hours. And you can see that it's just spread those times based on that calculation across each of those days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that, Control Z, undo, back to the original amount, 80 hours and 10 days. I'm going to double click on the task and make it a fixed duration task, so it will always be 10 days, fixed duration. Okay. Now watch what happens. If I double click on Anne again, I can still apply that work contour, but it will do it within the 10-day frame that I've just set. So backloaded, okay. So it still stays at 10 days, but what changes now is the number of hours that she's doing. So instead of 80 hours over that period, she's only doing 48 hours over that period. And that's how you can use a fixed duration task with a work contour in Microsoft Project. So that's all I want to talk about in this little video. Hopefully using task types is of use to you. Thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.